Hey everyone, it's Gabriela Flores from soulexcelsior.com. We are so excited to present to you a very special guest. I'm sure some of you have heard about the Akashic Records, and some of you might even say, what exactly are the Akashic Records? So we have Inga, who is going to give us the most incredible insight into this wonderful and fabulous metaphysical world that the Akashic Records can provide. Inga offers intuitive guidance and healing in the Akashic Records. Inga, how are you? Thank you so much for being here.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. And yes, I'm excited to share. So maybe we can just start with me telling a little bit about what the Akashic Records are and what do I actually do. And it's an interesting subject because there are many ways of explaining what it is. And the way I see it, and it's a very old concept, but it's really a collection of information about all that is, a sort of universal field where you get information about who you are as a soul, but also a record of anything that's ever happened. So you can look at it as even an aspect of the divine, and that's all there is. And well, people sometimes think that it's a library of records, and it's helpful to think of it in these terms, especially in my work where I, read for specific clients who have specific questions. But of course you cannot really, because it's a higher dimensional concept, so it's not an actual library in heaven that you go to and the angels open the books.
We could only wish, right? We could only hope.
Yeah, but also it's helpful for us to give, because you can't really, human language doesn't really have words for, concepts that don't exist in the 3D. And so we have to make those concepts. So inevitably everything is bastardized, of course, when we put it into practice. But it's an old concept. Like the old theosophists spoke of the Akashic Records, that, they contain the record of everything that has ever existed. And so we can tune into those and receive information. Yes, and I think,
yeah, that's so super cool because, first of all, by the way, if you don't know, I actually got a reading with Inga a couple of years ago, and it was the most fabulous reading I've ever gotten. She was so insightful. You gave me such depth, such detail, like everything made complete sense to me that I was like, I've never had my life been seen in that way. So for people that are just kind of getting on this sort of path of learning about the Akashic Records and are curious about it, why is it important to know about the Akashic Records, and how does it benefit us on our healing journey?
Right. Yeah, that's a great question. And thank you so much for the, for the feedback. I know it's been a few years, so yeah. I'm happy you remember.
For sure.
Yes, well, this is a question, actually, we've been talking a lot with my clients lately in terms of getting an Akashic Record reading specifically, and a lot of people were saying, well, I wish we had this at school when we were 12 and 13 and 14, and they told us, look, well, your soul is this and this, and this is what you came here to do. And of course, we didn't get this reading at school. So we're running around wondering, what is it that I'm actually doing here, and who am I, and why am I? And I just don't understand, what I'm supposed to do in this world. So, as I said, the Akashic Records is really a collection of information. And in order to access it wisely and to make any sense of it, we need some sort of structure. So the way I do these readings, I access the information in a structured way, and I ask specific questions about the soul profile. What strengths does the soul have? What energies does it present with? How it is made, basically, and that gives me the clue as to what it means for the client. Right? Is this person having challenges, for example, in relationships or in boundaries or issues of power, etc., etc. So, and also I started doing, I don't remember if we did that when I gave you the reading, but at some point I started doing the clearing in the records as well. So I do the soul clearing part, where we just really ask the spirit to clear things and to restore the soul blueprint. And in the first session, it's more standardized. And then if people want to get, further sessions, then we go into more detail. And so we clear the, let's say, the energies, the influences of the past choices that a person has made. I don't know, this can be, to give you an example, maybe you have been a monk or a nun in several previous lifetimes, and so you've made vows of obedience, chastity, and poverty, and they served you well in those lives, and they assisted your spiritual evolution. But now you are trying to run a business and raise a family, and you don't understand why you keep pushing men away and why all the money simply disappears, because your soul still carries that frequency of I will remain poor for the rest of my life, because that serves you don't know it even consciously, you don't remember it, but it's such a strong energetic signature because you made this vow with a lot of energy, a lot of conviction, and it's still in your soul, so to speak. It's still recorded for you, and you keep acting out because of that vow. You kind of subconsciously push away any good that can come to you in terms of finances and relationships, and you may also rebel against authority because of the presence of these, monastic vows. So that's just to give an example of
which, by the way, if you're tuning in, how awesome is that to just know that pretty much everything that is in your soul's blueprint is actually dictating and affecting your current life circumstances. And, I just remember being so floored by everything you told me. And I was like, that makes so much sense though. So how does the process work where someone is now watching and they're saying, wow, this sounds so super cool. How does the process work? What do they need to do? Like some people, how some people, sometimes people like to say, maybe you need to be vibrating at a higher frequency. So you kind of do like certain, maybe like go on a dairy-free something, or, what was the process like in order to really get the most reward and benefit from getting an Akashic reading from you?
Yeah, well, actually, I don't have specific rules.
I remember. Yeah. I didn't know. Maybe something. Maybe there's more to it. I was always curious about that. Yeah.
So I don't set any particular requirements for clients, except of course to be present and not to be driving or sitting in a restaurant, because we do tune in, and I tune into their energy field. It's a little bit different, not a little bit, it's different from a psychic reading in that I don't really read their aura or anything. So I go to the soul level, but when I do the clearing, I also clear the energies, and sometimes that includes, dark energies, etc. So I do tune into their field, and it's helpful if both parties are concentrated.
Right.
We both are not driving. So, but that's about it. Because when I go to the soul profile, it's really not so much dependent on the personality even. Of course, it shines through, but a soul record is so much more than just the personality. So I never use video calls as well, because I feel it's distracting for me. And so I like to concentrate, and I usually sit with my eyes closed, so it feels pointless to look at a person.
So, and what do you do in terms of preparing yourself for each reading? So what do you, some people often need to clear themselves. Like I'm a life coach, so I constantly meditate. I live a very high vibe diet, I'm currently fasting at the moment. I'm on like day 13 and I'm trying to do a 30-day fast. So yeah, it's pretty intense, but I kind of like to keep myself completely clear and, so I can provide the best healing tools and modalities for my clients. What is your process in terms of before you sort of prep a session?
Yeah, fasting is great, actually. I'm going back to my tradition of weekly or twice weekly fast, which is really, yeah, it's awesome. Once you get into the first day, it is the worst, and then after that, once you get into the routine, it just really flows. It's beautiful. Going to changes your whole relationship to the material things in terms of food and everything. It's like really. But yes, so of course, yes, I agree. We have to keep the channel as pure as possible. That really helps, to tune in and work best. At the same time, of course, nobody's perfect. So, the purity, we all read from our even intellectual biases, or my reading is different from a reading of someone who is, I don't know, maybe into shamanic breath work, say, so they would operate with different words and different, so and that's why everybody's different. So people who come to me, they have particular things they got attracted to, which they didn't find in anyone else, right? So,
yeah.
But to keep that, to be fully myself, of course, I need to, keep that channel pure. So I do meditation. I also do daily clearing, where I just ask the high beings to clear my aura and the space. And I do that before each session as well, and in between us, between the client. And of course, after the session, disconnecting was very important, because I don't want to carry those things with me, right?
How did you get into your lifestyle?
Oh, well, that's an interesting story. Well, I was always spiritual, and I was always interested in all things spiritual and religious and really everything. Mostly Christian, but I had a lot of inspiration from theosophy and, so 7 years ago, I got into a soul connection. So I met someone, which was it was unexpected. I wasn't looking for soul connection. It just kind of rocked my world. And it gave me a lot of questions. So the answers, or let's say the framework that I knew, did not give me any answers. There was nothing in religion or in whatever I was practicing at the time. It was not enough. Suddenly everything got destroyed. The whole world shook, and there were no foundations. And so I started looking for meaning and just to gain my ground a little bit. And of course, I started, going back to what I earlier learned about past lives, and working with past lives and healing. I studied different healing modalities and energy clearing, but when I got to the Akashic records, I think it felt like it goes deeper and it goes to the core of it. So when I can address an issue at the soul level, it's not a magic wand. We do have to do the work if we want to change, but just pinpointing and knowing that, these issues come from past lives, and these issues come from choosing to pick up ancestral energies and so on. And so this is what is going on. And that really helped me, and that gave me a framework for working and understanding and trusting the spirit more. So I thought, well, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to work with people with, because that helped me, and now I want to help others. And it's been really great. I really love it. And in the beginning, it was always a surprise when people told me, "Oh my gosh, this is so accurate." Yes.
So in essence, love basically put you on the path of the path that you're on now. Was love.
Yes, it was love. It's a good way of making a long story short.
It's so interesting because I always say that love is the most highest frequency that all of us can attain, but it's what we all secretly want. Even if we're sort of lost or we don't know, we're like, no, we don't want it. We don't want it. We all secretly,
Yeah.
that's all we're really here for, I think, so that's so cool that was like, they say love is our greatest teacher. So
Yes.
I love that. Okay. Do you have any tips and guidance for those that are wanting to do the same in terms of, wanting to begin a lifestyle of this nature?
Well, I think, first of all, I think everyone can tune in, and probably most of us have already tuned into the Akashic records at some point, at least in our lives. Let's say when you create something, when you write music or poetry, or when a story comes to you, or a work of art. Very often it feels like it is something that already exists. You just have to put it out there. You just have to channel that. So all instances of channeling, whatever it is, it doesn't have to be, spiritual, any material of spiritual nature, but it's all spiritual in the sense that it is a channel. So I think in a broad sense, everyone is doing that in some form. At least creative people are probably aware of it on some level. And I studied with, my method is a combination of several modalities. There are courses out there that teach you to read the Akashic records. There's something you can do for yourself. I think there was a woman, Linda Ho. She has a small course online somewhere, Sounds True, I think, which is made, for you, it's very comprehensive. I studied a different method for reading for the clients, but that's a great start. I personally, I don't teach yet to read because you have to develop your own method for it. So there are several good, very good teachers who give online courses on reading the records and accessing the records, if that is something that interests you. But otherwise, it's also, I think we all develop our own method. So the structure is one thing, but it's also tuning into that frequency of, divine love and truth and beauty, and kind of channeling that divinity. That's really how you access the records. So whether it's online course or whether you're doing your own thing, there are many, many, many ways of choosing that. But I think if people were to Google reading the Akashic records or a course on the Akashic records, they'll find 2 or 3 people who will be on the top of the list, and they will be the ones I studied with.
That's awesome. So so in essence, when you said creativity, so when you're channeling creativity as well, is that a way of accessing the Akashic records as well?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's really, really cool. So creative people are pretty much always in their library of the universe. Is that an accurate statement?
I think so. Maybe not always. Not all art is probably channeled.
Yeah.
But I know, I used to write songs and poetry. Haven't done that for many years, actually. But I know that the best ones came when, I was out of the way, and you just get that piece. And I think that's the moment when and of course now, if you are trained to do it consciously, or even if you take, a short online course, you are become much more effective at it, because you kind of develop a protocol so that you get consistent results. And, so it becomes easier. But I believe our definition, because sometimes, when we do this Akashic record reading, and it's very structured, so people think, well, that's all there is, a soul profile, whether it's predicting the future, telling you about past lives, but that's not all there is. It's so much more. It's also art. It's also your inspiration, your ideas. It's the inner knowing that you receive maybe on some situation in your life, that's when you tune into that space. Yes, so it's so much broader than, you know, the readings or any specific framework, because it's really...
That's absolutely incredible. How does that differ from like this whole idea and concept of alternate universes?
Alternate universes, yes. I've been trained actually that we live 6 parallel lifetimes in any given... I don't like to think
I know,
about...
we're like constantly multitasking, right? So how does that work? Is it possible that in our Akashic records, we'll see, like you said about the reference of the nun or the monk, right? Is it possible that we could be living that exact moment right now in an alternate universe? And so, or is that different from, is it more?
No, well, first of all, well, in the Akashic...
I'm going all over.
Yeah, in the Akashic records per se, there is no time and space. And, you know, the higher up in dimensions we go, time and space cease to matter. So there is a stage you reach where all is one, but then, you know, you're one with God, and then it doesn't matter. The way I think parallel lifetimes work is that you are kind of doing the same lifeline with different choices, and your soul gets to test out what things would be like if the choices I made were different. You know, so in one lifetime, you say you're born in the same more or less place, and then it just goes. That's the way I was trained to see it now, because we don't really consciously live in 6 lifetimes, so we would go insane. It's not a testable fact. It's not. I cannot scientifically prove to you that. So you could say, you know, okay, fine. Well, you can choose to believe it or not. But to me, it seems like learning about the power of choosing, the power of choices, that we can get born in, or, you know, more or less similar circumstances, and then a lifeline would develop completely differently based on different choices and the different choices that people around us make. So it's not, it might be that, you know, I could have chosen to be a nun, and then maybe I am a nun in lifeline number 6, which is the furthest away from reality. So I would have no conscious awareness of it, but that's just speculation. So, but in terms of parallel lives, they only matter when there is a portal of some sort, or when they start to interfere once our frequency goes up. So it can happen that, you know, as we go up in spiritual development, there can be a little window when suddenly we may create a portal to one of the parallel lifetimes, because we are playing with time and space as a soul. So it may be relevant at a certain stage, but more often than not, it really has no bearing on our present reality. And I try to stay as practical as always. I don't like thinking so much.
Right, it's too much.
Masters degrees, but I'm not thinking.
Right, no, it's so true. So what do you, what, I know I got you thinking a lot. What is your take on the whole destiny and fate concept? And by fate, I mean F-A-T-E, not F-A-I-T-H. Yeah. What do you think is the whole concept between destiny and fate, and how do the Akashic records play in that?
Yeah, people ask me a lot in terms of this. The most common question is, you know, what I should be doing, or what do the Akashic records say about, you know, my future path? Like, should I be doing that? So that's actually the hardest part of the work, I think. And of course, I have to work with it as well, upholding that our choices have enormous power. So I see it more as a quantum physics type of thing, where you have, you know, yes, many of those parallel realities, and kind of when you make a step when you take an A, choices A, B, C, D, E open up for you. You choose E, and then other choices open up for you. So it becomes, but until you take the first step, the choices ahead of you are not even open. So I don't really believe in a thing, like, I don't believe that Akashic records tell you what you should be doing, because libraries don't often tell you what you should be doing.
Right.
Figure out by yourself, but you can stock up on knowledge, right? And then make informed choices. And that's really what happens. I do not believe there is some sort of a destiny book somewhere there which says, what is going to happen or which day you're going to die. Sometimes these things come through. There is a reason, but we create so much through choice, and sometimes it seems, okay, so we have a karma from previous lifetimes. We have to work on this. We have to work on that. But the truth is, we also created it through choice. At a certain point, we always chose. And maybe those choices were wrong. Well, now we have a better knowledge, and now we can make other choices. But we always choose. I don't mean to say that we are 100% creating everything. We are co-creating with other people, of course. And I do believe in the creator, at least in this dimension, as we are, here, we're very individuated. But I think, I don't like, let's say it's, both could be true, but I prefer, I think, let's say not I prefer, but I think it's most helpful for most people to uphold the importance of their choices, and not that, there is a book of records which is going to tell you what to do, and now everything is going to be fine because Inga here is going to tell you how to live your life, and that, you are going to live for 40 years, so you have enough time, and, you can eat and drink as much as you like, because you're not going to die anytime soon.
Right. That's so true. And it's so funny, the concept of like how the Akashic records can tap into the past. And you said there's no book that can tap into the future. That would be something very interesting, right? Like how if like you make this choice, like you said, if you chose choice E, it would create this book. If you chose choice F. So in an essence, you do need to know your past in order to know what's blocking you from the present, so that you can make better decisions for the co-creation of your reality.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So what would you like to see more of in this world?
Yeah, great question. What would I like to see more of in this world? Sometimes I think it's tolerance may not be a very good word for it, but what I'm thinking about is accepting things, accepting the different paths of anyone, whoever walks, because I see it in many different environments, and maybe many of us grew up with judgment or separation, or it's part of but I see it in New Age groups very often, that just the fact that you have a few crystals on the table and don't go to church makes you somehow a better person.
Yeah,
and those
I'm like, why is there always this, like, it's like you're not supposed to have the ego ever, but for some reason our ego is always in this like world where we're supposed to be egoless. Like it's like always like we're trying to outprove how conscious we are.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was referring to. Yes, holier than thou, or unholier than thou, but I am better. Here I am. I can do, I don't know, play African drums, and you over there So, and it feels, and people think, well, no, we are conscious, we are evolved. Those people there, they are still in the old paradigm, but and the truth is, sorry.
Not true. We're all in this together wherever we are, right? So you're saying that you would like to see more of that sort of, is that more of a compassion, or is it like an empathy? What do you think? Or is it just kindness?
Acceptance for sure, and compassion, yes. I would say, for me, it resonates more with acceptance of divergent paths, because you see, I believe everybody has their own little piece of the world that they're working to fix. It can be something small, can be something huge. And yes, we are on different levels, or we're working with different things, but we're all in the same boat, right? No one's going off by themselves. So yes, both empathy and acceptance. I think that would have been great.
Beautiful. Where do you see yourself going in the future?
Oh dear. Well, the future is becoming more and more uncertain. That's the funny thing. When you start working with the Akashic records, people think you can reach the future, and you know less and less. So that's the magic of it. You are called to more and more surrender. So I do see myself living. I'm actually in the Mediterranean right now, on a little island in the very center.
Very cool.
Of Malta. It's kind of south of Sicily, just whatever, 50 miles south of Sicily.
Beautiful. That's so beautiful.
So I see myself working here and expanding my practice, and it looks like a lot of new things are wanting to come into my life, both in respect to relationships and that same love 7 years ago is also coming here. So
the same love?
Yes. That, the guy whom I met and started all the spiritual adventures.
Wow, beautiful. That's so beautiful.
And the new businesses are coming, like someone wanted me to work with, people from Europe coming over here. So it feels like this is a time of great expansion, which means I don't really know where things are going from here, but it's really interesting because there's been a lot of change, but now it feels I'm grounding myself while at the same time finally being ready to expand.
That's beautiful. So I was going to ask you, what is your take on twin flames and soulmates? Have you heard of the concept twin flame? I'm sure you have. Mm-hmm. It's pretty, so do you feel like do you feel like this past love is a twin flame or soulmate?
Yes. For my case, it is a twin flame connection. I don't like to go, that's a whole separate topic.
Yeah, for sure.
These are notoriously challenging. But the first time someone told me was, I believe it was 2013, and there was a guy from New Orleans who told me, and I was in the Middle East at the time. And it was really strange because I went to New Orleans a few months later and ended up living there for several years. But suddenly a random guy from New Orleans told me it's a twin flame connection. And I said, what nonsense? Twin flames is something romantic and beautiful. And what is this? So for me, twin flames is a soul awakening journey, and it's very much a path of spiritual purification, a path of enlightenment, so to say. For some people, there is a different way. But it works in pretty much the same way as all paths to enlightenment work, meaning stripping you of anything you thought was yours and just giving you no ground to hold on to, and you're kind of just there taking one day. So it's really meeting with the living God and being quite shocked by the experience. So, and that's why I'm very careful when I talk about twin flame connections, because I feel there has been a movement to romanticize it, and to, leave out that spiritual, well, it doesn't have to be, of course, all sweat and blood and tears, but for many, it is primarily a path of spiritual development. And people, sometimes people come to me and say, well, when will I meet my twin flame? And I'm like,
Oh
honey,
my God.
are you sure? Are you sure? But why?
Oh, you're awesome. You are so awesome. And I appreciate you so much taking the time out to discuss all of these incredible things. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, where is the best place to go to?
So I am on Facebook as Healing Radiance, but I also have a website, and it's www.healing-radiance.com. So you can go on there. I have some articles and blog posts, and I also describe in more detail what kind of readings I do. So I do both Akashic Record readings and healing in case someone is interested for future work. And I also do relationship readings for people who want to discuss soul connections because of my experience in the field. So that's the main 3 types of sessions that I offer, and then you can check out the website
and what else would you like to share with the person who's watching or the people that are watching? Anything that you feel like is super valuable, especially with what all the changes that are going on, the great expansion. Sometimes it might be a little rough to some people that may be dealing with some certain things in life. So what would you say, just as just something that you would like to share with them?
Yeah, it's important. That's a good question, because it's been difficult for all of us, and I think the past few years have been really, and for me too, it's been insane change. So I think for me the 2 key words have been grounding and protection. Really spiritual grounding, and this can be anything from using spiritual practices or praying for grounding to really doing the garden work or or swimming in the sea, really whatever works. And spiritual protection, by that I mean energy clearing, clearing your fields, clearing your space. Again, there are many ways of doing that. And setting up protection, like some people use Reiki symbols or ask for Archangel Michael. So I think what has been helpful for me the most is clearing my energy fields on a daily basis. Because if I forget that, it's like before suddenly you're totally out of whack. And of course, the mind doesn't even think it's external energy. So I think, well, something's wrong with me. And then I realized, oh, well, yeah, it's just everything. And
it's everything together.
Yeah, because and being empathic and working with people and going through a lot of changes and shifts, the more is going on our way, the more we need to clear the field. That's important. And especially as we go higher up in vibration, there is a certain level you reach that, nothing sticks to you anymore. But during any kind of transition, it's so important to clear the field. So yes, grounding and protection has really been my key words, and I'm also called to work more with that and kind of not to forget to ground, because it's very easy to just want to.
You mentioned Reiki. Have you ever gotten Reiki yourself?
Yes. I was I was trained as a Reiki master in the US. I think what happens to I don't know. What happened to many, I think, is that nobody I know uses it in pure form anymore. It kind of feels that this modality, was just a kickstart for something else. So I don't really use it anymore in the pure form. And I actually had a teacher remove the symbols from my field to allow, to evolve further. That's not, I mean, it's not against Reiki or anything, but that's just what happened. Not so long ago, just a few months, and I haven't noticed anything bad happening since. So I assume it's, you just channel different energy. But we all evolve, right? Whatever worked 40 years ago is maybe not so efficient anymore, or has got contaminated along the way, so we just move forward. But that was at the beginning, it was a great start in my spiritual journey. I remember just doing the distance healing and people feeling shifts halfway around the world. That was like, wow.
Did you always know you were going to be a healer?
Healer, not sure. Something spiritual, yes. My friend at school always told me I have to run a theological show.
That's right.
Well, theological, I'm not sure, because as I said, I don't like thinking so much. But people always considered me an intellectual, but I guess I never quite measured up to their expectations. But I always wanted to share spirituality, with other people, to share my spirituality, to work with spiritual issues. And as for healing, I didn't quite think of that. It was more an inspiration, and seeing the results that people were telling me, oh, this is so good, you should really consider doing it on a regular basis, so you should really work with it. So it was more of feedback and, those friendly pushes along the way that...
Oh, that's beautiful. That's really beautiful. Those sound like your earth angels, basically pushing you to get on your path and your destiny. And that's why you do such incredible work, where you are now healing others. So I'm glad for those earth angels that pushed you and did that friendly push, because as I mentioned, she is fabulous. You are going to love the experience of having an Akashic reading with Inga. I really, really recommend it. It will blow your world, totally give you a newfound perspective on life, because I think that may be something that what I took from my own reading was, you're kind of seeing a reality right now, and sometimes we feel like, well, when is this going to happen, or oh, this happened or something, and I think the Akashic readings really help you see it from a very big perspective. And I love that. So if you are interested, which I know you are going to be, you definitely want to go to her website, healing-radiance.com. And you can check her out on Facebook at Healing Radiance. She is absolutely amazing. Thank you so much, Inga, for being here. We are so grateful, and we feel so blessed and honored to have this time to share with you with all your insight and wisdom. So super grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Love.